Okay, so the next talk, critical infrastructure in cyberspace, complex and dangerous, by Manuel Atug.
Okay, thank you. Yes and yes. I'm going to show you why and how complex critical infrastructures are and why this is dangerous for us all in any point of view. So first of all, to know about my intention behind this, I'm working at HiSolutions. I'm a computer scientist, so I did informatics somehow. I have a master degree in applied IT security, which is in generally cryptographic, and cryptographic things. So I can speak also this language. And in addition, I'm an engineer, so I can rant about engineers as I am one. So that's very important because you have IT and OT, or industrial control systems, and that's usually the computer scientists versus the engineers. As I have both parts in my heart, I have two hearts in one chest. It's fair if I'm going to rant about both scenarios. I'm doing this since some years, and my topics are, of course, critical infrastructure, which I'm taking care of since some decades. But also I'm interested in the hackback technologies, which is active cyber defense in offense way. Before they hack us, we have hacked back before, whatever. So this is really a crappy topic and is a dangerous setup for critical infrastructures. I'm going to show you. I'm addressing also the ethics in the topic, and by the way, as I did this since many years in critical infrastructures, my last flavor in my spare time as a volunteer is addressing civil protection, because the topic is really tricky. So yeah, security consulting, we do at HiSolutions. We break things like pen testing. We build things again up, like incident response and forensics, and all the other security competences. We are going to try to help others to build a robust and resilient environment. So first of all, the definition of a critical infrastructure, that you know what I'm going to talk about. I have reduced this just to one point of view, because if you want to, you can discuss about this like 2 or 4 hours and you still have no clue which definition is now the relevant one. The United States has their own. European NIS directive has its own definition. Germany has its own local implementation, which is the IT security law. And within this, you have several different flavors, which means you have some kind of state definition. Then you have the definition of the ministry which is taking care of civil protection, Bundesamt für Bevölkerungsschutz und Katastrophenhilfe. And then you have also the federal states, 16 different definitions. And we are still not finished. There is the definition also for the municipals. They can also define on their own what is critical. So I'm going to reduce this just to the official definition of Germany, which says critical infrastructures are somehow organizational and physical structures which are of vital importance for nations, society, and economy. And the failure or degradation would result in some kind of sustained supply shortages because of a disruption of public safety and security or other dramatic consequences. So this means it's critical because it's critical for society and economy. Makes sense. What is critical in Germany? We have 10 different sectors. You can see in the circle 9 from the 10, and the 10th is added this year. This is the official circle from Germany, and in German there is a circle which contains all the 10 already, because this year the IT Security Law 2.0 added the municipal waste disposal, but the English version is still the old one. So I just wanted to demonstrate everything's up to date if the government takes care of things because of reasons. What, for example, is missing is, if you watch for the BBK, Bundesamt für Bevölkerungsschutz und Katastrophenhilfe, they would say, well, critical is also the chemical industry, but as far as you can see, we have things like, energy, health, food, water, etc. But the chemical sector is missing. So either they did a good lobby job, or the government didn't listen and understand what the experts say. Well, this is not the first time in Germany this is happening, but nevertheless, I would say there is not everything covered what would be in intention of this definition a critical infrastructure. Nevertheless, we have these 10 sectors, lucky 10, could be worse. So what is the risk of cyber and IT and all these things in critical infrastructures? We had, for example, the scenario that NotPetya ransomware was at Maersk, and this was some kind of disruptive scenario for this critical infrastructure provider, but also worldwide. It's not only that they had to reinstall many components and had like 10 days of analog work in pen and paper, which is pen and paper pain in the ass, you know. It's not like they're just having 2 or 3 ships per day. It's really a mess. And what the biggest mess for economy and society is that Maersk in this time frame and a long time afterwards, they had no clue, really no clue, where the cargo containers were located. Without the IT, the process automatization and all the procedures, they were simply blind. And that is, you have all the goods and stuffs, but you're not able to find out where. And if you have such a huge amount of cargo containers, you have simply no chance to find out where it is located. And this is really, let's say, well, that's why transport is a critical infrastructure sector, and which also shows that this could easily result in a supply chain problem. As we are living in just-in-time procedures, this was just-in, wait a long time procedure. And you cannot get spare parts, you cannot get, things you need for your daily life, and that is exactly what happened here. So IT and OT is very important for the civil and the economic environment. Similar, same problem, different shit. Petya ransomware at TNT Express. They also had the problem round about same price. You cannot see this down there. $300 million roundabout. Why is the scale different? Anyway, they had the problem that 300 million euro as an impact for this company could also result in some kind of risk which is threatening the existence of the company, which means if a company, because of a cyber attack, IT or OT problem, has an outage which is so big that it is combined to heavily costs, it might even result in they have to close doors. And what does this mean for the supply chain or for the delivery of the critical infrastructure service? It means a complete loss. It's not only broken for 10 days or it has problems for like a month, 2, half a year, whatever. It's simply a complete loss of this critical infrastructure provider. And that is really the baddest behavior you can have. So you should always watch for big threats risking the existence of a company. And this is already some IT in very often the case, but also IT and OT very often the case. And I'm going to show you this also, but this is a good example to show that this might result in a heavy outage for everyone. How does it look like for governmental environments? Well, the sector state and administration is officially existent as one of the 10 sectors, but we would not be Germans if we would not live bureaucracy in a very experienced way. The state and administration sector is not covered by the IT security law, not even by the IT security law 2.0, because we are a federal state with 16 federal states in one big state. And the law resulted in a specific law which says all the critical infrastructure sectors, except two, have been regulated by this approach. They need to do state-of-the-art IT security in their production environments, so everything's fine. But we have two different sectors which are not properly addressed by this, because the sector media and culture is regulated by the local 16 federal states. So the government cannot tell all the 16s what they have to do. They can just say this is critical and you have to take care on your local laws about it. And the governmental definitions, like state and administration sector, could not be regulated by this law, because the law is tracked and controlled by the BSI, the Federal Office of Cybersecurity, Bundesamt für Sicherheit in der Informationstechnik, and they are not independent because they belong to the Ministry of Interior. And of course, a non-independent actor cannot rule a democratic state behavior. Otherwise, it wouldn't be democratic. So this is the trick why this failed. And so they said, okay, this is not regulated by this law, but it is critical infrastructure, and we have to take care somewhere else within the governmental structures. And the governmental structures to take care of this are like a black hole. You have the UP-Bund, you have an IT-Planungsrat, but you ask questions in, nothing comes out. They do not transparently explain what's happening. They have no IT security requirements for governmental environments. And that's exactly why so many municipal environments are compromised, for example, by ransomware, very efficient and easy, because all the tasks, I mean, if citizens go to their municipal or governmental office and say, hey, I want to register my car here because I bought one or I moved from somewhere, there is a Fachverfahren, which is the expert process of how to register a car. And you have like around about 600 of this specific tasks, and every task is differently done by a state or even by a municipal locally. So everyone can do it on its own. Some are using the same data center and same software, but anyway, everyone can do its own. So exactly, we see a landscape of it doesn't matter what flavor you're searching for, you will find it. And this means also that you will find all historic old legacy flavors which have ever existed in the world, in the IT world. So you can easily find Fachverfahren which are, well, still working on a Windows 98 with an Excel 97 Excel sheet which has grown over the years to some kind of Fachverfahren. You can find Microsoft Access database flavors which are still in Access 97 running and working in 2021. So this is really a broad landscape of everything. And well, if it's critical infrastructure and it's not working and all these Fachverfahren are broken because someone went in this environment and easily crypts everything, we have the problem that this results not only in some kind of pain for the governmental institutions or for the municipals, but also a real big threat and risk to the health of the citizens living in this city. Why? Well, if you don't register your car, in Germany, many people would say this is critical infrastructure, but okay, for me not, official definition also not. But you have the problem that, for example, the social payments are done by a Fachverfahren. And if the social payment cannot be done, and someone really has already no money and really needs this money every month, exactly at that date, and it cannot be paid out, you have easily really life-risking or health-risking problems. And that is exactly what organized crime groups are hunting for. They want to see things like a hospital or a municipal environment where they can make such pressure that it would be a life threat easily for everyone, and they can grab the ransom out. So this is really some bad thing happening, but nevertheless you will find in the world always someone who is bad enough to do this. So this exists, and that is really the problem which is addressing this critical infrastructure heavily. As I said, I'm a computer scientist and an engineer. I wanted to show you slowly or easily the difference of the mindset and thinking. This is from a safety point of view, the old style mechanical OT approach. So the idea of safety, and in Germany we translate safety and security with Sicherheit and Sicherheit. Great. Safety and security is Sicherheit. So you don't even know the difference, except you try to explain it somehow with workers' security, Arbeitssicherheit, but not really covering it. It's not intuitive. And IT security for security in that point of view. But nevertheless, you have always to explain because the context is relevant, but many people lose that context already by the same wording. And the safety point of view of engineers is usually that they say, hey, the employees should not get hurt or injure themselves with or via a machine. So it's very easy. An engineer is engineering a machine that it should not hurt any employee or worker who is touching this device. And you have some kind of emergency stop, whatever, sensors who say, okay, someone is putting his arm in, I'm going to emergency shut down everything. And this was done all the years, or decades even, by mechanical processes or mechanical approaches. And now, slowly it starts to get, you get IT in these OT environments, and things get more complex. But these people, especially engineers, think more about mechanical and manual processes and procedures. If you watch for the IT security guys having the new style IT thinking and mindset in OT environments, well, the safety point of view would still be something like no manipulation via IT and OT at the machine, which can result in a safety event, which can result in hurting or injuring a human. Yeah? But if you check for IT security guys, most of them are not familiar with OT and are not familiar with safety. So just one example, in IT, in cyber incident response, you would say an attack is a security event and we have to take care of, and we usually find out that an attacker was in there, and we can see in the log files that this was roundabout before 150, 200 days. So this is the average. Usually you do not easily and quickly find out that an attacker gained access to the environment. In OT, it's more like you have a power plant and it has to work. If you have an outage and the machine says, I have some pressure on this pipeline, you have usually some reaction time of, let's say, 60 seconds. After 60 seconds, if an engineer is not performing some manual process or mechanical process, or by IT, some kind of process, it might have an overpressure and can explode. So you need to act on a security or safety incident within 60 seconds, otherwise you have a big boom and everything's gone. So some 100 days versus some seconds is already one big difference, and you have many such difference in IT and OT environments, but the one hand doesn't know about the other one, and the other hand doesn't know about this one. So you have to get them together and discuss about this. But why is this not happening? It's not happening because people are stupid or whatever. It has two main reasons. The first reason is you have an IT responsible guy, like CISO or whatever, who takes care of the IT and the operations. So he's responsible for the office network usually. And then you have the OT guy who is the production facility or head of production facility and takes care of the production facility and the machines in there and the OT. So if you renew some kind of production facility environment, usually the IT guy is not involved because he's in the office, Active Directory, take care of salary and all that stuff. But in the production environment, head of production facilities taking care. So usually these guys don't know each other and don't discuss about such things, at least in the past very often. Still, somehow they get closer to each other, but there's still work to be done. And then you find out scenarios like you go into the production environment and make a system check or an assessment and say, nice equipment, environment, production street is working. What the hell? A switch, which is, I can see the number, whoa, this is outdated, it's out of maintenance, out of software, out of security and safety updates, out of everything. It's a wonder that it's still working. And they go around and find like 17 of these switches and say, interesting. Then you discuss with the head of production facility about this and say, what is this? And he says like, no clue. Okay, we have to speak to the IT guy. You go to the IT guy and he says, what is this? I have never seen them. And they're not located in my asset management, not on my map. I cannot even scan them, find them. Why, what, how? And then you find out after several discussions in a group that the company did a tender, said, okay, build up this whole stuff for several million euros, and the service providers and vendors went over there, built everything up, and move away. As these two guys never spoke to each other, the head of production facility said, well, they built everything up, everything's fine, it's working, I'm out of the game, no problem. I was not aware to discuss with the other one. At the end, the 17 switches were installed as part of the whole machine environment, so it's OT with integrated IT, and they had even an internet uplink. And we checked that even this was not existent at the IT guy who was wondering why did they even have an internet uplink I'm not knowing about. Well, because they built everything up as this big tender said, well, it must work. And they said, yeah, okay, we do remote access and remote support. We build up internet over there and connect it, or connect it to our cloud. You can, every kind of flavor is available. And at the end we even found out, well, the 17 switches were even accessible via the internet because firewalls are for losers, not for Klingons, Chaka. And it was a wonder that they were not compromised and ransomware, or even the production was receiving a heavy outage. But this is the real world scenario you're seeing. They are not speaking to each other and not finding out that the others exist. So at the end, it's one cyberspace for all the different actors in there. And well, the outcome of this is obvious. So one cyberspace means the cyberspace doesn't matter about, hey, this is the IT guy, this is the OT guy. And it doesn't even matter if this is organized crime, this is espionage, whatever. You have one cyberspace for everyone, that's it. So deal with it. Otherwise, you will have a problem. And the problem for critical infrastructures results not only in higher risk, but even more higher risks, as they have, of course, a problem of supply chain attacks, like happened at Kaseya and SolarWinds. Kaseya is an IT management and monitoring software, SolarWinds somehow similar. So they compromised this supply chain supporting vendor, and by this compromised many hundred critical infrastructures, governmental environments, even military components and environments. So that was a big mess at both. But at the end, for example, at SolarWinds, how's it called? Aktienkurs, the stock price dropped after this was known, and for 1 week it was really bad, and after the week it was almost at the same level of before. So if you're going to fuck up all your customers completely, it's just 1 week of stress. Afterwards, you have the same price like before. That is a message what the investors are sending to cybersecurity risks and to OT environments or critical infrastructure environments. That is exactly what they understand. 1 week of stress, afterwards everything's fine. So, I think there should be more problems resulting of such a scenario, but nevertheless, this is, again, the reality. Yeah, ransomware is well known, but for example, Emotet was one of the shooting stars at the beginning. After years, the police and Secret Service departments started to hunt them. Finally, before some months, they made big press releases. Hey, we have taken down Emotet group and all the systems, and hackback is cool, and we must be offensive. Yeah, okay, cool. You found one of a trillion organized crime groups, so it's 1 against a trillion in percentage. Not that efficient, but nevertheless, you need all these hackback scenarios. And what happened before 2 or 3 days? Well, mysteriously, Emotet is back in the game. Why? Hey, there is Christmas. Christmas means a lot of money, a lot of fun, and a lot of benefit. And as this organized crime is some kind of black market economy, of course they are not stupid and want to get this money. I mean, we are speaking about millions of dollars and not like some dollars. Even in the United States, the first half of this year, the amount was around about, not remembering correct, 600 or 800 million dollars of ransom paid. So this is the official knowledge of paid ransom, only in United States, only for half a year. So you can estimate what it is worldwide and what the non-known payments, if you add them, we are speaking about several hundred million markets. It might be even a billion market. So they have to mess with this. And if you think back to a municipal being ransomware, well, a small city against the whole cyber world with all the organized crime groups. That's not really what is covering the challenge correctly, because if you get several $100 million, you're going to invest some million into the new attacks. And think about how much is the IT budget and how much of this budget is IT security budget. You can easily find out that this is not in millions, but more like in, oh, big hole over there. We should fill this or just forget it. So the budget is really a problem, and the attackers have also a big difference of being on top. And all of this tax-free. So the benefit is even more. So what the threats are in addition to this, and remember, we have just one cyberspace, means you have cyber warfare, military environments in there, you have professionalized cybercrime, you have the organized crime methodologies over there, which is, again, a difference, organized crime and cybercrime in general. You have more and more IT dependency, because without the IT, your OT or your critical infrastructure is not working anymore. You have the digitalization and globalization, which gets into more IT dependency, because, for example, if you have some 24/7 operating room of a power plant, or maybe a better sample is of a water disposal, then or water, fresh water and old water disposal, you would have the 24/7 operating team. For small cities, this is very expensive to have all this knowledge 24/7 at hand. What they are doing is, hey, we can now, by IT, can remote access this and have a specialized team at the biggest site, and they are providing also the service by remote access or getting on site if a field service technician is needed, with like 6, 7, 8 small disposals also. Means they are more digitalized, more globalized, because the small city now, or the small provider of this city covers now 7, 8, 9 cities. But this also results in more IT dependency, which reduces a lot of costs, which is of course helpful, because if you cannot pay the price for fresh water, then you will have again a problem with the citizens. But at the end, this also takes care of making things more IT, more digitalized, more complex, and attackers really like remote access services. And for example, the Oldsmar, Florida scenario, which was in the press, in the media a lot, was in Florida. Oldsmar is a small city with 15,000 people, so it's a really small city. And an actor, they're speaking about a hacker or an attacker, I would say an actor went on site and through the remote access and wanted or tested to change some kind of chemical configuration parameter in the HMI, human machine interface, which is the OT interface for the process. And in this chemical parameter, he just put two times a 1 in front of it. So it was some 100, and now it was 11,000 some 100 of this chemical part. If you would put that amount of this chemical part into the fresh water, you would not only destroy bacteria, but also the humans who are drinking it. But to get all this into the water, it takes several hours, and you have some mechanical sensors who are also saying, look, this amount is not really into the parameters you should have. So there are backwards still some processes in place which would detect this in a secondary, third safety construction. So IT and security is a problem, but in safety thinking, the engineers did it right and would detect that. But an on-site engineer was sitting in front of that machine, seeing that the mouse is moving, and someone puts this parameter in and was like, this is bad. I'm going to disconnect that, and I'm going to erase this to once, so it's again several hundred, so nothing happened really. And everyone in the media told, well, good guy, did a good job, they found out, and disruption of service was not done. And I was like, what? Give me an octopus. The 5 fingers are not enough. I have to facepalm myself. Why? Not because the system was Windows 7, which is out of maintenance. Not because there was no firewall in front of it. Not because the remote access was done by an old remote access. They switched already to a new one on the machine since half a year, but the old one was existent. Not because they always use one user password combination since they existed, and all the old engineers did know this also, which left that company. No, it's not that. It's not even that 2 or 3 years before in Darknet, the user and password combination was leaked already. It was that this guy sitting in front, seeing it and interrupting that process. I mean, rule number 1 in OT environments and critical infrastructures is you have that on-site engineer or you have remote access, which someone is accepting, approving, and watching for. What the fuck are they 24/7 using remote access when they have an on-site engineer? I mean, that's really the crappiest thing you can ever do, because if he's there, he can see it, but he's not sitting there 24/7 watching exactly this screen. That was really a big luck. And in every single state of IT working process, you will see this is how it goes. And well, media said, Jumba Wamba, everything's cool. So I would say, no, nothing is cool. This was a big risk, and we had a lot of luck that nothing is happening. Well, the state organization in Germany has said, cyber is a problem, we are going to solve it with more offensive, with more police departments, with more cyber units, and again, more cyber is good. So this is how it looks like. We have down there the municipals, over there the federal states, 16, so 16 times the same jumba wamba crap. Then we have Germany as a whole, so they need also the same stuff. And then we have Europe, doesn't look better. So we have a huge amount of different responsibilities, etc. So I call this the cyber version of a Where's Waldo picture of responsibility diffusion. And that is exactly what's happening. You have a responsibility diffusion, and it's still growing. So this one is, I think, version 7. Every half a year it's updated. And usually after a day, 2 days, or a week, someone writes, or when they release it, someone writes, hey, there is a new agency or whatever, Cyber Jamba Wamba, you haven't added this, please put it in. So you can do this on a daily basis. And they are currently thinking about a 3D online VR system, which they can immediately update, and you can see how it looks like, because 2D is no more efficient. And you can try to print this out in A4, normal A4 size, no chance to read anything of it. It's like this screenshot, it's non-readable. Although it's usually just 3 or 4 letters, you really need A1 or A2 size to be able to just read what kind of agencies, ministries, cyber units, whatever is existent. So this doesn't make sense, but it does not stop politicians to add +1 on top of it. So just a short sample of IT Security Law 2.0. In the draft version, they have, as always, fear and sanctions are cool for German government. They have written in that the BSI, the Federal Office of Information Security, should provide security vulnerabilities to security agencies and keep them secret for a temporary time frame. Whatever temporary is, you all know, temporary fixes can remain for several years. It was in the draft version since many draft versions, and it was removed just shortly before the final version was officially announced. So there was a huge pressure of the civilization and of the economy, and they had to remove this. But really, they wanted to push it hard and want to have this for state trojans, for offensive hackback, and all these things. What they have integrated is a Lex Huawei paragraph, which means, well, there is a vendor statement that they are really not cooperating with governments, they have no backdoors and everything, and if they provide this, everything's fine, but the Ministry of Interior can write a veto and say, we are not trusting this one, so they have to be out of our telecommunication environments. And that is exactly what Germany wanted to do with Huawei. So this is the Lex Huawei, which is describing, you can do whatever you want, but our veto says you're out of the game. And at the same time, really at the same time in parallel, Germany had this double standard scenario for their foreign intelligence service, where they said, well, in their law, we are going to write in the Bundesnachrichtendienst has now received the legal right by law to hack into foreign telecommunication environments, which is critical infrastructure, and worldwide everything except Germany, they can hack, everything's fine. So we want to keep the Asians out, but we want to be in the whole world. I mean, this is not only double standards, this brings you also into some kind of bad diplomatic position, and you're sending the wrong signal to foreign countries, maybe for not so democratic countries, because if I would be a dictator, I would see this, I would say, Germany is this democratic thing, always bureaucratic and correct, and they accepting this, hey, we have to put something more on it, so we have, you know, more the level of being a dictatorship. This is really the wrong signal, but that is exactly what Germany did this year. So the first law wanted to integrate this, the second law integrates it, but point of view is somehow schizophrenic. Well, everything gets better with a strategy. So we got, in 2015, a cybersecurity strategy. Everything gets better. Well, the 2015 version, in short, was not a strategy at all. It didn't contain anything what is described as strategic paper. It was just a bunch of things you can do or not. No one's tracking it. It doesn't make sense. Nevertheless, the new version of 2021, again, released this year, contains, well, some kind of really competent definitions like security by encryption, security despite encryption, because we want to have security and encryption, but we don't want to have a going dark scenario for our police departments and secret services. So we must break encryption a little bit. They can watch in just in several messages. But anyway, we want to have encryption. So either you have strong encryption or broken encryption. But this is how they write it into the strategy. And this is, again, a double standard which doesn't make sense. Hackback, I already told you, the active cyber defense requires a basic law amendment change. And by the way, this basic law amendment was the Grundgesetz, well, the basic for the democratic behavior of Germany. Well, to change this, you can think about what they are going to change. Maybe it's not so democratic anymore like it was before because they want to do hackback. It doesn't make sense at any point of view. Digital sovereignty was addressed in the strategy. I was like, yeah, digital sovereignty. Oh, wait, by lawful interception methodology from the KRITIS, which is responsible for making lawful interception methodologies for police and all those services. Okay, digital sovereignty in point of view of all these state actors, but not for the citizens. Okay, drop that. And last one I wanted to discuss about is vulnerability equity process, VEP. They want to do some kind of security vulnerability management, which means they want to discuss about which ones they temporarily keep back for a time frame. But if you see how complex critical infrastructures are, and you can see every flavor of every complex thing, and the combination of safety systems, how big and how complex should this expert group be to define which security loophole you're going to keep in there? And by the way, other countries might also have the same problem and know about this vulnerability and can misuse it anyway. So the VEP process is really a big danger to critical infrastructures, because if they keep loops back or vulnerabilities back, that is really obviously a big problem. So the dump is burning. What do we do as a solution? I have not too much time left, so you see there is not too much what we can do as humans, but there is one thing which is very important, the curse of competence for critical infrastructures. I mean, competence means you can do defensive cyber resilience and can have fallbacks to make sure that the process is up and running or those under attack. And that means, for example, a simple question to ask, and if this can be answered, everything's fine. The question is, do you all know how you would do the processes with pen and paper? If everyone in that company, in that agency, in that governmental infrastructure would say, yeah, I know that, and I can do that, everything's fine. How often does this happen? Well, so at least we see there is a solution which is tricky, but you have to train this, you have to discuss this, and you have to make this process, and then it works. And how do we get into a happy, happy, joy, joy scenario? Cyber resilience is key to success. Defensive instead of offensive is key to success, because this provides cyber resilience. You must have some kind of positive error culture in your company, in your environment, in your institution, to make sure that everyone is discussing about error states and problems. You must need an organizational and communication infrastructure or culture to maintain this. And by the way, you should have some kind of evaluation of laws to make good laws, which require some time. So this is what I would say is very important. And finally, the key to success are humanoid life forms and the communication of them, and not a technical thingy. So thank you very much. And
yeah, thank you.
That's
Thank
it.
you, Manuel. So, are there any questions, audience?
I thought everyone would be shocked, but anyway, someone is asking. Enjoy. Turn it up.
Test. Oh.
Great.
Okay. Now I have to remember my question. All right. All right. So these KRITIS like requirements, do they include actually technical requirements like an ISO certification 27001 or something like that? Or
No.
it's just super high level?
Well, it does not contain crap like, hey, you need a certification. That's a good point. The good point is also, as it is a law and not a certification, it just says you need to have some kind of industry security best practices which are acceptable for the delivery and availability of the critical service you provide. The critical services are defined, and you have to provide this critical service by this industry accepted in your branch, industry accepted standards. So do this in a safe and secure manner for the IT components, for the people and the processes involved, cover everything in your asset management, and do it, whatever standards you're going to use some kind of methodology. And if, for example, in this law is also described that these 8 sectors have to do every 2 years some kind of assessment. It's not an assessment that you have a certificate, but an assessment that you fulfill this intention of the law. And by this, the BSI, the German responsible unit for this, says, did you do some kind of information security management system in combination with a business continuity management? Because this would be a structured approach. It doesn't matter if you use ISO 27001, if BSI IT Grundschutz, or whatever flavor you're using, just use industry processes of your branch, use an ISMS and business continuity management, and make it structured. You must maintain your information security to be available with your services. So no one can ever say, it's just a certification, or but they just describe this technical nonsense which doesn't make clue. You have to think for your own, what is your environment, what is your asset scenario, what is your risk scenario, and based on that, what is the right methodology to implement to make everything safe and secure. So from this point of view, the law is really good written, but tricky to comply to. You have no tick-the-box checklist, because you have to build your own checklist to find out what you really need and require.
Okay, but that's good news, right? It's not just degrading to a checkbox exercise, right? Okay, I did that.
No, it is not.
Check.
So you need to develop your own checkbox scenario. Afterwards, you can tick the boxes, but that doesn't matter, because if you have developed what you really need, that is exactly what you should have, and that is exactly written in the law.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then we, I think, got a quick question from the chat. Right?
Well, it's more of a comment. Somebody said that utility companies have to be certified according to ISO 27001.
Well, not based on the BSI law addressing this in paragraph 8a, but there is, again, in Germany, everything is over-regulated and bureaucratic. You have, for example, for some parts of the energy sector, the Bundesnetzagentur, which is responsible for the control and oversight of them. And they say, we don't care about the BSI law because this is not our law, and we are the responsible ones saying what you have to do. So you have to comply to that, but we require you to make an ISO 27001 certification with, I think, 27017 in combination. So specific oversight agencies or responsibles can describe their own, and some of these this is partially regulated, but it's not the whole energy sector, but specific energy operators have to do this. So in some of them, yes, it's, well, Germans can do bureaucracy. It's a correct statement, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Not hack stickers, you can have some here.